Maxine Bassa opened her eyes and gasped for air. She felt a sharp pain in her chest and a throbbing in her head. She looked around and saw that she was lying on a stone altar, surrounded by strange symbols and carvings. She was inside a cave deep within the ancient mountain of Gilway, in the land that was once Papua New Guinea. She tried to remember what had happened. She'd been driving her car across the wasteland looking for a safe place to rest and refuel. She'd spotted a sign that said, Mount Gilway, Sacred Land at Ayabu. She had heard stories about Ayabu and the mysterious tribe that lived in harmony with nature and worshipped a powerful god that dwelt in the mountain. She had hoped to find some food and water there, maybe even some allies. But as soon as she had entered the mountain's territory, she was attacked by a pack of ferocious dogs. They were not like any other dogs she had seen before. They had glowing eyes, razor-sharp teeth, scales, and fur. They were the spirit dogs sent by the god of the mountain to protect her domain from intruders. She had fought them off with her shotgun and her knife, but there were too many of them. They had torn her clothes, bitten her flesh, and dragged her out of her car. They had brought her to this cave, where they laid her on the altar and left her to die. She had lost consciousness, but not before she had seen a figure emerge from the shadows. It was a woman, or something that looked like a woman. She had long white hair and a robe. She had a staff in her hand and a crown of feathers on her head. She was a god of the mountain, an ultra-terrestrial personification of the mountain Yabu. She looked at her with a mix of curiosity and pity. She touched her forehead, and then Maxine fell into a deep sleep. She had dreamed of her past, of her life before the apocalypse. She had been born in a green place, a fertile oasis in the middle of a desert salt plain. She had grown up among the many mothers, a clan of women who had escaped from the tyranny of the warlords of the wasteland. They had taught her how to survive, how to fight, and how to love. She had a sister, Furiosa. She was younger than her, but stronger and smarter. They had been inseparable, always playing, fighting, and exploring together. They had shared everything, even their dreams. They had dreamed of leaving the green place, of seeing the world beyond the wasteland. They had heard stories of the old world, of cities, oceans, and forests. They had wanted to find even a better place, a place like no other. Who destroyed the world? But their dreams had been shattered when the warlords attacked the green place. They had come with their war machines, their guns, and their fire. They had killed many of the mothers and taken the rest as slaves. They had burned the green place to the ground and left nothing but ashes, bones, dust. Furiosa had been captured and taken to the Citadel, a stronghold of the warlords. There she had been branded, chained, and tortured. Maxine had been taken north to the oil platform and forced to serve the evil warlord Bennis Hierophantitis, Coxic Cosmikazi's father, the most ruthless and cruel of them all. He had a lust for power, a hunger for oil, and a madness for destruction. He had wanted to conquer all of the wasteland and turn it into his personal hell. Maxine had endured years of suffering, but she had never given up hope. She had always looked for a way to escape and get her revenge. She had made friends with other slaves and formed a secret resistance. They had waited for the right moment to strike. That moment had come when young Coxic had decided to launch a massive attack on a rival settlement that had a large oil refinery. He'd gathered his army of war ghosts, his fleet of war rigs, and his horde of war slaves. He had planned to wipe out his enemies and take their oil and resources for himself. Maxine and her band had seen their chance. They had stolen some war machines and had driven away from the oil platform. They had hoped to reach the settlers and warn them of the impending attack. They had also hoped to find some allies there and maybe even find a way to escape to a better place. But they had been pursued by Coxic and his forces. They had been chased across the wasteland through sandstorms, canyons, and quicksand. They had fought back with everything they had, but they had been outnumbered and outgunned. They had lost many of their friends and many of their allies. They had reached the settlement, but it was too late. Coxic had already attacked and had set fire to the refinery. He had killed most of the people there and had taken the rest of the prisoners. He had claimed the oil for himself and had celebrated his victory with a feast of blood, flesh, and fire. Maxine tried to rescue the remaining survivors, but had been caught in the crossfire. Maxine and her rebels had been separated and had lost sight of each other. Maxine had been shot in the leg and had fallen to the ground, seeing the destruction in the distance. Maxine screamed. She had tried to get up, but she had been knocked out by a blow to the head. She had been thrown into a cage and taken away to one of Coxic's war rigs. She had woken up in a new place, a place worse than she had experienced. It was the warlord's lair, a fortress built on the ruins of an old oil rig. It was surrounded by walls and metal spikes, and guarded by towers of guns and rockets. It was filled with slaves and weapons and machines. It was the heart of Coxic's new empire, and the source of his power, where he hoarded resources of nature and men. His father's head on a spike at the front gate. Maxine had been put to work in the oil mines, digging for the black gold that fueled Coxic's war machine. She had worked day and night under the whip of the overseers and the watch of the war dogs. She had suffered thirst, hunger, and pain. She had seen many of her fellow slaves die or go mad. One night she escaped and found her old car turned into a war machine. She stole it and drove off into the wastelands. But she had been pursued by Coxic and his forces. They had chased her across the wasteland through storms, mountains, plains, and ashes where mighty forests once thrived. She had reached the mountain of Gilway, a sacred land of Ilabu. She had entered the mountain's territory and had not been pursued due to superstition and fear of the mountain. They had seen the god of the mountain, Ialbu, her powerful holograms of a mysterious fire in the sky with flying demons like miniature planes. Maxine Bassa opened her eyes and gasped for air. She felt a sharp pain in her chest and a throbbing in her head. She looked around and saw that she was lying on a stone altar, surrounded with strange symbols and carvings. She was inside a cave, deep within the ancient mountain of Gilway. She saw a figure standing over her. It was the god of the mountain, Iabu. She smiled at her and said, "Welcome, Maxine Bassa. You are the chosen one. You have a divine mission. You must destroy Coxic Kazamikaze and his war band. You must save the wasteland and the world. You must restore balance and harmony of nature. You must be the hero and the legend. You are Mad Maxine, the warrior of the Abu." She handed her a staff and said, "This is your weapon. It is the staff of Gilway, the mountain god. It has the power to influence the elements and the spirits of nature. It can summon fire, detect water, shake the earth, and make illusions of the air. It can call forth a creature of the Ilabu. It can strike down your enemies and protect your allies. It is the key to your victory and your destiny." She pointed at the door and said, This is your way out. It leads to the surface, where your evil war machine awaits. It will use it only to destroy the warband, then destroy it and preserve the essence of nature and of the earth."